what we have done is we have understood how to plan risk management, what is risk identification, what is qualitative analysis of risk, and what is quantitative analysis of risk. Okay. Now, now that we have identified in detail, the next step is to understand what action we will be taking in case of the risks that are identified. So the risks that we have identified will fall in the category of threats or will fall in the category of opportunities. There are five strategies for negative risks. There are five strategies for positive risks. And if the risks are not big enough, we'll talk about these strategies, but if the risks are not big enough, you will use your reserves rather than you remember that probability and impact matrix uh, where you saw which are the risks on which you should be focusing on and which are the risks which have a medium priority and which are the risks that have low priority. So the low priority risk you may not plan out in detail. You will see, okay, if that risk happens, I will use my buffer, I will use my reserves and go ahead and take action. So that is what is contingent response strategies. For understanding if your response is good enough or what has happened after your response, you will do data analysis. I already identified risk is activity A getting delayed. So I'm trying to plan response for it. I'll do data analysis. Activity A has two resources. It's getting completed in 10 days. Can I add two more resources so that it will get completed in 6 days? If it gets completed in 6 days, my schedule risk is reduced and my budget doesn't get too much impacted. So that is the analysis, data analysis that I will use. This is the analysis that I told you. What if is alternative analysis. I might have two more resources, or what happens if the activity actually gets delayed, or can I have anything else? Like, okay, can I buy out the product of that activity instead of having that activity? So these are the alternatives. What if analysis and cost benefit analysis. I'm adding two resources so that activity A can be done faster. Is it really worth it? If for compressing the activity, I'm spending 10,000 rupees. Is that really worth it? The benefits that I get, are they really worth it? That's what we are trying to find out. Cost benefit analysis. Depending on what analysis tells us, we will take decision. Shall we compress activity A? Shall we add two resources? Shall we add three resources? The decision is taken here. Okay, so that's what typically happens about small size risks. About larger risks, data analysis will happen in larger risks also, okay, when you take action. But the strategies will be different. For negative risks, the strategies are escalate, avoid, transfer, mitigate, and accept. So, what is escalate? There are certain risks depending on the size of the risk. Actually, project manager is not in position to take a call there. So, it is beyond his powers. He needs to escalate it. A situation in which the project needs to be terminated without completing. The project manager cannot take this call. That needs to be taken by senior people. So I can give you one example here. On 27th July 2005, do you remember what happened in Mumbai? If you are from Mumbai, that was the day when the whole city was submerged. It rained heavily and the entire city, yes, there were floods. The entire city was in waters. And do you know what I was doing? I was implementing SAP in a textile company. I want you to understand the situation. Heavy rains, lot of flooding, and a textile company. So we were working in the textile company's office where the godown was nearby. And since my team was from Hyderabad, I stayed with them on the guest house in Prabhadevi. So if you know Mumbai, I'm trying to help you visualize the situation. In Prabhadevi, we are staying. This mill is in Lower Parel, where and all this area is flood prone area. What happens to textile? Entire stocks are underwater. The company is making huge loss. Are they in position to take the SAP implementation project ahead? SAP is something when you want to do better, you do. Not in the situation when it's your life or death question. That organization is really suffering a big loss. We cannot go ahead with the project. But on top of it, as a project manager, I could not take that decision. So I had to approach my seniors who, anyway, had some idea about what's happening in Mumbai. They immediately agreed. But in such cases, when a project manager is not in position to take a call, the action plan for risks are decided by seniors. They need to escalate. Okay. Okay, let's say I'm working on delivering a latest kind of gearbox or a new machine, whatever you please. And there is a small component of that machine which is extremely important component for that machine. And our team is doing that component for the first time. They're technically sound, but practically they have not done that component any time before. And the customer is not comfortable with this. He says, you say your team is good, and they might be, but they actually do not have any experience on that component. If that component is not of the good quality, our entire machine will not be useful. And we don't want that. We're very critical. Let us tell you upfront, we are really worried, and that will mean that the whole project will get closed. So that's a serious threat to my project. It's a big risk for my project. What I perhaps can do is okay, the customer does not uh, seem to be comfortable with the idea that team will do something for the first time. They may go to extreme. What can I do? I go to a vendor in the market who sells those components ready-made. They are little expensive, but yes, they are ready-made available. That vendor is very well known. The component can be tested before you buy it. So there is no doubt left that the component is not a good component. So I decide that instead of my team making it, let me buy that component out. What will happen if I buy that component out? The quality is ensured 100%. So the customer will not worry about it. Acceptance risk is totally avoided. So, if you plan in a way where the risk is totally gone, risk cannot happen again, what you are doing is you are avoiding a risk. Let Okay, even after telling you the example, let me tell you that such cases are very rare where you can actually avoid the risk altogether, practically speaking. One more strategy that is used for managing negative risks is transferring the risk. Instead of me bearing the risk, you bear the risk. Will you do that? Many people would. What is insurance? Life cover, warranty, guarantee. In every case, third party is bearing the risk. So instead of a particular entity bearing the risk, third party bears the risk. That's transfer of the risk. In case of a project situation, what I can do is let's say I'm working on a schedule constrained project. The customer has said that you have to finish the project by this date, otherwise there is a penalty for you. We have started with that contract, and halfway through I have realized that there is some chance that I may not be able to complete the project on time. What I do is I outsource some work to a vendor. Now that that piece of work has gone out, my team can complete rest of the work easily within the schedule. And then I tell that vendor, boss, I want you to deliver before this particular date. If you cannot, you will bear the penalty. So I'm transferring my risk to the vendor. That is the contract. Based on that contract only, I'm outsourcing the work to you. So that is the case where I have transferred the risk. Mitigate. This is where I told you that the PMBOK uses, or anywhere you see risk management, they use this term in a specific sense. Mitigating is bringing down the probability or bringing down the impact. If you actually can bring down both probability as well as impact. So, okay, let me think about example. Fine. I'm working on a project where the customer is absolutely fussy about quality. They say quality will decide if we accept or not. We want the best quality, we are ready to pay, but we want you to deliver the best quality. My team is good, but if the customer is very fussy and the risk is identified that customer may not accept if the quality is not to their satisfaction, okay, let us arrange for a training which will perhaps help my team deliver better quality. So if I arrange for training, they will improve the quality, so impact gets reduced, and because they have better knowledge, the chance that this risk will trigger also gets actually reduced. So what I'm doing is I'm mitigating the risk. If you give it a thought, avoiding is a special case of mitigation where you make probability and impact both zero. Are you with me? It's not only you reduce, you make probability zero. You buy out a new component, probability that the customer will not accept is zero. Impact of that risk now is zero. So basically what we have done is we have reduced the probability to zero, reduce the impact to zero. So it's a special case of mitigation actually, avoiding. Accept whatever you cannot do anything with, just accept it. Do you remember we were talking about stakeholder tolerance? My 15 weeks project was getting delayed by 5 weeks. I did not have sufficient money to cover the entire 5-week delay. So what did I do? I decided to cover the delay so that it comes within the acceptance level of my stakeholders. So I covered the delay for about 3 weeks, let's say. So what happens? Your project still has 2-week delay. What do you do about it? Nothing. I know that project is going to get delayed by 2 weeks, but rather than covering that entire delay, I have other headaches to attend to. I'm not going to do anything about it. So just accept. These are the 5 strategies for negative risks: escalate, avoid, transfer, mitigate, and accept. There are similar 5 strategies for positive risks also: escalate, exploit, share, enhance, and accept. So, what's escalate? If some opportunity is coming your way and it is beyond your capabilities to give any decision, yes or no, you will need to escalate that to your seniors. For example, I was working on SAP implementation project. My team was really very good. They were really doing a fantastic job, and the customer was absolutely happy. They said so in so many words, so many times, that your team is really doing a good job. So one fine day, the customer side sponsor comes to me and says, Vajiti, we also have one more sister concern, and they would also like to have SAP implemented. They are about the same size as we are. So, can you take that order up? As a project manager, I'm not in position to decide. I know that this is good opportunity for our organization. We are getting one more order, but I'm not in position to decide because that's a decision seniors have to take based on the feasibility. Do they have people available? Do they have the bandwidth? Do they really want to go ahead? So I have to escalate. I have to call and say that this is what Mr. Agarwal is saying. Do you, sir, can you please check on it so that we can get one more order? So escalate. One more technique that's used in case of positive risks is exploit. What is exploiting? Ensuring that the opportunity will definitely trigger. Exploit the opportunity. So what happens is, okay, this is typically what happened actually on Haldirams. We started that project early in the year, say towards June, July. We were to close that project. It was a big project, and we were to close that project by November end. The go live was scheduled, the entire thing was planned out. And now we are towards the end of August. We are going to close the project when? By November end. So September, October, November, 3 months yet to go. And one fine day, the sponsor, customer side sponsor calls me and says, Vijayanti, I need to discuss something with you. When I go there, he says, there's a particular situation, Vijayanti. We realize now that the project is closing by November end. We want the project to close by October end because there is a big trade show in which we want to participate. We want to show off our status as SAP implemented, and the trade show is happening by mid-November. So we have to finish SAP implementation 4 weeks before we have planned. Can we do it? That's what he's asking. If you are in my shoes, what would be your answer? Okay. Let me see how many of you are sleeping. What would be your answer? Can you do it? Is the question that is asked by your sponsor. Yes or no? Okay. So all of you want to say yes. I did not. Why should I do it? What I'm getting in that? So the first answer is, sir, I understand your problem, but 4 weeks early would mean a lot of work needs to be finished. Instead of we getting 3 months, instead of we getting 12 weeks, we would get only 8 weeks. So that is something like two-thirds of the time we have to finish all the work. How can we do that? The point is, I'm trying to tell him that if you want me to push for that, I need something more from you. And he was a seasoned businessman. He knows. So, Vajanti, I know what you are saying. Listen to me. If you finish the whole project by October end, we will give your organization 20% bonus. Now he's talking. So, now, of course, I want to do it. But I say, okay, let me talk, let me discuss with the team, and I'll come back to you. I also have to discuss with my seniors. So I go to my team, we go to guest house, and then we start discussing things in the day. I tell them, this is what has happened. Team, what do you want to do? The team says, Vajanti, why are you asking? Of course, 20% bonus, we will go ahead. We will work really hard. And actually, if they are giving us 20%, we can actually have more people work on the project. That might mean something like 3, 4, 5%. But on top of it, we will get some additional money. Why not? Let us, we have to go ahead and take this opportunity. We will do everything possible so that this opportunity actually happens. Actually, we are able to deliver 4 weeks early. What did we do, or what did we want to do? We wanted to exploit the existing opportunity. What happened is this same customer actually was asking for some additional work to be done, which he had said beforehand, but we said, okay, we'll take it up later. Now that we are anyway having additional resources, it makes sense to do that work and get additional money. When I propose that, I'm adding to existing opportunity, char chand upar. So enhancing the existing opportunity. When you are adding something to the existing opportunity, what are you doing? You are enhancing the existing opportunity. So now that that has happened, I want to talk to my seniors at Hyderabad that we are getting such an opportunity. We already have suggested that we will do that additional warehouse management work so that we will get some more money on top of that 20% bonus. So what I'm feeling is my seniors would definitely be happy. They'll appreciate me. But when I call my senior, so Vajanti, what is the news? Then I tell him, sir, I'm really excited. This is what has happened. Mr. Agarwal has asked us to close the project early, but he's giving 20% bonus, so we should be able to do. And he's also asking us to do the warehouse work, which is what we only suggested to enhance the opportunity. Huh, good. That is the reaction from my seniors, which I did not expect. If he's saying good so lamely, that does mean that there is some problem. So what's wrong, sir? Vajanti, I'm actually happy with the additional business that is coming. But the situation is the only warehouse consultant that we had, just not saying that we have, he's using the past tense, has put in his papers and he has to be released immediately. So what does that mean? We cannot complete warehouse management immediately. So friends, what would you do in this situation? Would you give up the opportunity? Not really. Why should we? We can turn to the market, look for people. We can say, I have business, you have the skill set, let us share the opportunity together. Strategy to share. So, 4 strategies we talked about: escalate, exploit, share, and enhance. Accepting is not taking any action. Sorry. I arranged for a training for my team so that quality of the work will improve. That is what happened. That's fine. But as a side product, my team actually also understood how to do some of the deliverables faster so that actually it compressed the schedule, reduced the schedule. That was a benefit. I did not actually work for it, but something good is happening. Some positive risk is happening. Schedule is getting compressed. Accept it. You don't have to do anything for that. So that's a passive action. Just accept it. Don't do anything for that. So these are the 5 strategies for positive risks. Also, like escalate, exploit, share, enhance, and accept. I know that we have just crossed 6, so we will be completing risk management and we'll be closing. I don't want to start a new topic at the fag end of the day. And fag end of the weekend that too. No, no, no. Let me just complete, Abhijit, these two small topics and then I'll come to you. Okay. So what we did here is we have, sorry, we have identified what responses we will give for these risks. Now, when these risks are actually about to happen, carry those responses out, execute those responses, implement those responses. And all the while, from beginning till end of the project, keep on checking What is it that you are planning for the risk? What is it that's actually happening? Go on till the end of it. Monitoring risks. Monitoring risks, one thing you have to remember is when you realize that a certain identified risk will not trigger anymore. Customer has already accepted that difficult deliverable about what he was worried. He's already accepted. So the risk cannot trigger anymore. I have to retire that risk. Before retiring a risk, the risk will always be audited. How was the risk identified? How was the response identified? What was the response? Was it good enough? Did you implement the response properly? What happened? What could you have done better? So that is the risk audit, which is done in case a risk needs to be retired. So that's a part of monitoring risk. Otherwise, monitoring risk is just checking that you are going as per the plan. In every knowledge area, let me repeat what I said in the morning, there will be minimum one monitoring controlling process. The job of that process is to ensure that everything is happening as per the plan. So you check what your plan was, you check what actually has happened, and you come to some meaningful conclusion. Everything is going on fine as per the plan, everything is not going on fine, you need to attend to some things. Either ways, I mean, it can be a conclusion. That's called work performance information. So I'm repeating it for this controlling process too. So the next topic is stakeholder engagement, and as I already promised, I'm not getting into that. So let us stop the screen share here unless somebody wants me to share it once again. Abhijit, you had a question?
Yes, it got partially answered. It is about that outdated risk which gets retired at the end of the tunnel. Uh, what is a measure to ensure that risk, which are valid also, does not get tunnelized? I mean, they are not retired and because the time is up and whatever project is closing. Let us quickly, shortly end it. So because that is a tendency.
I'm not actually getting your question, Abhijit.
The
You
how
are you saying that how do you plan so that the risk do not happen? I
no, no,
actually did
retire.
not understand.
The topic is about retiring the risk. For example, whichever we think are
Retiring risk is that risk is no more valid for your project. It's a
exactly.
situation.
So basically, on ground, what happens? I'm just giving an instance. But if at all you are not able to action on something, there's a tendency of retiring it. So is there a measure to stop that activity as a project manager?
Oh, you saying your team members retire a risk when they feel that they cannot respond to it or they have not
Hold risk,
responded at right time to
hold
it.
risk.
So
Yeah.
what were you doing
No,
as
I
a
was not
project
working on
manager,
that project.
Abhijit? Okay,
It
okay,
is
okay. Let,
closer to
let
the
me
home.
explain. Let me explain. When I said what were you doing as a project manager, you should ensure that risks are measured and responded to, and the risk register is updated collectively so that such questions would not come. And actually, you should train your team, empower your team, train them. That's the ideal way. Train them in realizing why they should not be doing this. See, why they are doing this, why they are trying to cover up when they have not responded to the risk they are trying to cover up. Because they're worried that their performance might get impacted, their appraisal might get impacted. So, if that is what is their worry, you have to help them realize that it won't, I will not allow your performance to be uh, downgraded or something.
Or the best is they accept it. Oh, let us accept it. Even the heads, I'm saying, let us accept this risk.
Let us accept this risk is anyway a valid policy if the risk is small. Rather than spending all the effort, it's not worth it. So it's a very small risk. Some activity is getting delayed by, let's say, half a day. It's a big activity, 3 week activity getting delayed by half a day. Why do you really want to spend the bandwidth? Spending your planning time, spending money, that itself is big. Why this half a day's risk doesn't call for that? So accepting a small risk is perfectly valid.
Correct.
I'm
So
not sure whether you're talking about small risk, but
yeah, so that is where, so that leaves a gray area in that sense. Ki, what do we qualify as small, and how do you measure if it's small, medium, or a
so
little
what
bit?
is your that depends on your organization's probability and impact matrix. So at the see, your project size will define that. I don't know your project size.
Right.
So you will have to decide what is the total project size and how the risks will be decided based on that. So that probability and impact matrix, which are your red risks, which are your blue risks. That is what, if you decide, you will get a good judgment of which risk is a small risk and which risk is a big risk.
It's like, it sounds to me these two terms are like this kanun. There are always loopholes in kanun. So this risk management also has this loopholes that you can escape a little bit from
So
that.
basically, if you are trying to think about it, like somebody would escape and take care of the or take benefit of the loopholes, you are trying consistently in that controlling mindset. That's not how the things will finally work.
No, no, I'm being an observer. I'm not a controller.
I'm not saying Abhijit you. I'm saying somebody. When I said you, somebody who does it. So that's not a correct mindset. Like, empower your team. The team should learn why they should do the right thing rather than why they should um try to cover up what they have done. And if you realize that somebody is covering up, do you not feel that it's but human? If you make mistake, to cover up is human. So next time, ensure that it doesn't happen. Maybe you will need to check the risk register very often, or maybe you will need to talk to your team. You didn't, instead of team saying that I did not take action, it should come from you. When I'm saying you again, Abhijit, I'm
As a
not saying
project manager.
Abhijit in person, some a project manager.
Right.
He should ensure that he knows the status of the risk and he knows where the action is taken. He knows where the action is not taken.
Correct. No,
Okay,
and
so
do we at the
this is
end
a
of the,
theoretical
okay,
answer, and you
no,
will
I get
need
it.
to.
The only thing I wanted to ask is, can we keep the risks open and close the project? I mean, I know we are not at the closing of
Yes,
project,
yes,
but
yes, 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 yes. Because that's something that did not happen. You cannot force close it. Towards the I had identified a big acceptance risk on my project, but it did not happen till the end. Till the last day, I was worried that the customer will not accept, so I could not close it. But finally, the project got closed without it. So
okay,
on the last day of the risk, the risk register was open. If you think about very large projects, typically government infrastructure projects or projects like dams, in fact, some risks will always remain open at the end of the project. And when you hand over the deliverables to the right owners, they will take care of those open risks.
okay, great,
Some risks have a larger life cycle. So finally, people accepting that the dam is good for them, farmers accepting finally. For that, in fact, it might be something like 5 years after the dam is constructed. That much time period will be needed. So that risk needs to be kept open.
great.
Interesting question, but yeah. Uh, Purva, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Just to extend on Abhijit's question, like you were saying, when like you're accepting a risk, will it also depend on the organization's risk appetite or the tolerance, whether to like accept the risk or not?
Risk accepting is you are, if it's a negative risk, you are not taking any action. जो कुछ भी impact है, I'm okay with that. So usually it is marginal impact. For big impacts, you will not accept the risk. It is your responsibility to manage a project. So you will not accept a risk which is big, right? Which will say that, Purva, how come you accepted this risk? This has such a big impact. Somebody is going to ask you, and you will not do it. On the other hand, for positive risks, if there is nothing that you can do in addition, I told you that I arranged for a training which improved quality of the deliverables. That was the purpose, but it also reduced the duration. What do you want me to do about it? Nothing. It's a good thing that has happened. Let me accept it.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any
So
other
yeah,
questions, friends?
so
Yeah.
yeah, so just example, just to extend on that. do we expose the risk register which we build internally, like a project manager and his 10 people team, to the customer also?
You can.
No, because that is quite internal, right? For example, this is we know internally. For example, SAP in the whatever Haldiram, we know that this module has this. I'm just saying, just for
SAP in Haldiram, if you are talking about, let me tell you what I did. On any project on day one, the first thing I said is sponsor. There is nothing like your team. Your people and my people, entire team is my team, and I'm going to lead it. I did that on every project. There was no you and us.
okay.
That helped
So
me a
if
lot. So
customer
there's
knows the
nothing
risk.
internal. I
Okay.
was always transparent. I believe in transparency. But then somebody doesn't believe, somebody might not want to share.
For example, attrition. Attrition is a soft topic, and we generally capture it in the internal risk register. We cannot say
I
customer
understand it
that
is an
fine.
internal risk. I'm not saying it is customer's business. But what happens if the customer knows? That's my stand. I'm not saying that that's a perfectly
No, no. So my question is, do we
universal
what is the
decision.
good practice? Do we generally, as a PM,
Good practice will always be transparent. But I'm again saying that that is a good practice. That's not something which is mandatory. So you might want to judge the situation of your project and take a call. If you ask me as a personal opinion, I'll always say be transparent. That is what I like. I'm not saying that is what you have to.
Friends, this is Satish Kamath from Effective Project Management Academy. Many people want to do PMP trainings and they would like to know same questions, different people, and instead of every individual calling again and again on different days, what we have done is we conduct 1 hour introductory session for knowing what we cover in PMP. So in this, please join these 1 hour sessions and you will come to know what is PMP, what is expected while studying PMP, or what are the requirements from PMI side, how to apply for PMP, and all this you will know in real time because this is a real time 1 hour session for letting you know what is PMP, how to study, what benefits are there from PMP, how you will gain from PMP, how much does it cost for you, and how much time you need to spend for this. And also, of course, I will be telling you some simple tips for passing PMP. So, this is what is the intention of this 1 hour session. Please join today on the following, call us on the following number.